This video is sponsored by LEGO Insiders Club. This is me spending 2 weeks of my life painstakingly animating a stop-motion short film in my LEGO city Spronkington. See, it all started a year ago, when LEGO Insiders Club announced they were teaming up with stop-motion masters Aardman Animations to make a short film called Boop, to inspire children to get creative and make their own stop-motion films in the LEGO Play app. If you don't know, Aardman are the studio responsible for Wallace and Gromit, Shaun the Sheep, Chicken Run, and loads more, and it is no exaggeration to call them my heroes. I literally took notes when reading their book. I have their posters up on my wall, I have a million pieces of Feathers McGraw memorabilia, and I've even previously combined the two and built several Aardman characters as LEGO mosaics. And as if this collaboration wasn't incredible enough, they wanted me to be involved. The plan was that they'd create an animation about Boop, a clay alien who enters a portal into a world made of Lego bricks. Then I'd ask you for your suggestions of what happens next, and animate one of those ideas myself at home. And the best part of all of this, I'm at the Aardman Studios to watch Boop being actually animated. Needless to say, I was very excited. I cannot emphasize how much of a dream this was for me. I felt like a kid on Christmas morning. Already see Wallace and Gromit in the window, and Feathers McGraw, there he is. Wow. I am very excited. The studio itself was a wonderland of creativity, but I'm just fangirling now. It was time to meet Boop. First I got to see the clay maquette in the model making workshop, followed by the final product. In fact, there were several different models depending on the scene, but my favourite was undoubtedly this delightful squished Boop, from a shot where the character's hilariously squeezed into a vehicle. It was interesting to see all the different mouth expressions the animators meticulously swap in and out for each frame of animation. So for instance, this is an E sound, and this one's really cool, it's an oo sound. And then it happened. I got to meet Wallace, Gromit, and Feathers McGraw.
I'm holding a real life Feathers McGraw right now. I'm kinda terrified.
Well, that's something ticked off the very top of my bucket list. Anyway, the whole experience was as surreal as it was wonderful, and a year later, I was invited back to watch the finished short film, and little did I know they had a surprise for me. That right there is me and Bella. That's right, we're in an actual Aardman animation as LEGO minifigures. This is probably the greatest achievement of my life. Hello, Chris from the future here. I just want to mention that this was all made and edited whilst Bella was still alive, and looking back, it just makes it all the more special. I want to say a really heartfelt thank you to Aardman and the LEGO group for including us in the film and immortalising Bella like this. It's genuinely such an honour, and such a kind and thoughtful gesture, even more so now having lost her. So thank you more than I can put into words, it's just so lovely. Dan and Georgia are also hidden somewhere in the scene if you want to try and spot them too. But I'm going to stop talking and continue the video. Watch the Boop film now at kids.lego.com. It's a masterpiece, a glorious, whimsical and heartfelt blend of clay, chaos and Lego bricks. The link is in the description. Okay, where was I? I felt incredibly inspired, and now it was over to me. I recently put out a short asking for your ideas, and I really like this one by ZFox126, who says that Boop should start a band with the LEGO minifigures. Now, the experts at Aardman gave me some advice while I was there, and the director Magda had something simple but really meaningful to say.
Think about the story first, and think about the beginning, middle and end. This is very important.
When I've animated with Lego bricks before, it's always been pretty simple and not really story-based, but this time I wanted to create something maybe a minute or two long, and with an actual coherent storyline. And so I decided to flesh out the idea a little more. I won't spoil it, but it's going to be set 1 year later and involve a big anniversary party. Prop maker and set dresser Matisse had some more advice for me.
I would imagine the kind of props that you have at home and then taking your imagination and bringing them to life in an incredibly creative way.
Well, since I already have a highly detailed Lego city called Spronkington, I'm going to set it there. And all the different streets and areas should really add to the scale of my story. I'm also going to need to build a few more sets specifically for this. And finally, one of the animators, Lee, had this to say.
Kind of just have fun with it, actually, because you can do anything you want. There's no limitations.
Hear that? I have official permission to make it incredibly silly. I started by writing the song the band would play, tracking bass first off, then recording piano and finger clicks. I added brass digitally, but played a real glockenspiel. Before I of course couldn't resist an over-the-top key change. I leave the lyrics as a surprise, but could now begin building the sets, starting with an elaborate news studio. I also built a field and crop circle, but this will be shot as though from a news helicopter, so I only needed to look complete from above. As a throwback to the original short film, I made sure to add sheep, and as a reference to that squished Boop scene I showed earlier, squished Lego Boop into a custom built tube train. Talking of references, Boop is teeming with Wallace and Gromit Easter eggs, from a constellation of feathers McGraw in the sky, to the rocket, cooker, wrong trousers and sidecar hidden as background props. I recreated the wrong trousers myself, as well as the constellation. I also sourced the exact parts of several of the characters, so keep an eye out for these in the finished video. With the sets and props now all made, I could finally start filming. Stop motion animation can be a tedious process, moving something very slightly, taking a photo, and repeating this hundreds if not thousands of times. And yet it's always worth it. It's pretty much magic, breathing life into inanimate objects. I spent well over a week on little over a minute of animation, but I am delighted with the end result. So yeah, a huge thanks to Aardman Studios and LEGO Insiders Club for involving me in all of this, and make sure you watch Boop at kids.lego.com. But now it's time to debut Boop Returns. Breaking news! On the eve of the first annual Boop Day, a mysterious crop circle shaped like the amicable alien has appeared in Spronkington. But what does it mean? Astronomers have been scouring the skies in search of our dear friend, but to no avail. And scientists emitting boop beeps into the universe have been met with deafening silence. Boop, boop. As the day approaches, preparations are well underway for the festivities. But the question everyone's been asking is, will Boop ever return? Did somebody ask for me?
Boop's back in Spronkington.
Today?
Boop's back in Spronkington.
No way!
Boop's back in Spronkington and riding the subway. Boop's back in Spronkington.
Hooray!
Boop's back in Spronkington. Good day. Boop's back in Spronkington. We wish that Boop could stay. Everybody loves having you here. Bye Boop, we'll see you next year.